Hey, what is going on, everybody? How are you all doing today? I hope you all are having a wonderful and fantastic day today, and if not, hopefully you all will have a better tomorrow. So today, I wanted to go into a discussion about the reasons why not every battle of the characters go into should be a life or death situation. I mean, yes, there will be some battles where some characters will die and some will live, but I want to talk about why there are issues with every single battle being a life or death situation. So sit back, relax, I hope you all enjoy, and let's go ahead and get started. So when it comes to life and death scenarios, when it comes to battles between two characters, one of them turns out to die, it can be a good thing and it can be a very sad thing because the audience could be a fan of the character that died, it could have been their favorite character, and it's depressing when these moments happen to see your favorite character go, and if they die for development's sake, well, that's a good thing if it's to develop other characters or there's a good reason behind the character death. As long as the character has gone through their story and they've gone through good development themselves and good arcs, then it's fine to kill off a character if it's done right. But not every instance is going to result in a character death. Now, the reason why I kind of bring up this whole idea of character deaths is so that the writers can understand that not every time you have to kill a character whenever they encounter someone else. It doesn't always have to be a death battle. It doesn't always have to be end all be all for one character while the other one can live and walk away. And we've seen some instances where it would be, oh, look, this is going to be a life and death battle. Somebody's going to die in the end, and then they don't turn out to die. Or there could be a battle to where a character comes in, fights, and then dies, and that could be a problem because maybe their story arc's not over with, or maybe their character's not fully fleshed out. And I want to really look at some examples of some good ways that RWBY has done this, as well as some bad ways that RWBY has done this, and how that in the future they can improve on this type of aspect when it comes to writing. So when it comes to your characters that you're going to kill off eventually, if you were to plan out the death of a character, you need to leave it as an impact. And RWBY has done this very well at certain points. Volume 3 is a prime example of when they did that very well, with Pyrrha and Penny's deaths, for example. Those were two impactful deaths that affected the characters, and even the fans were affected by their deaths as well. And seeing how they did this, and how it tried to help develop characters, was a good thing. I mean, let's look at Penny's arc, for example. Penny was a character that was an android, and as an android, one thing that Penny did struggle with was who she was. Her identity as an android, trying to keep it a secret, and how she really wanted to just be seen as a real girl rather than just a being that is a robot, that has aura. She wanted to be seen as nothing more than a human, and I think that we all as people can sit here and say that we could relate to Penny in some way or form because I think we've all struggled with something about ourselves, whether it be our looks or something of that sort. I think we've all struggled at one point in time. And through Penny's arc, I think it was starting to become very good because with Penny, she wanted to live a normal life. She wanted to start going to school at Beacon, and that would have been pretty cool. And then in the end, her death was used to just bring in the Grimm as the army to take down Beacon. And I think that this arc for Penny and how she developed from it and how RWBY helped her, I think was a very good arc. Another character that also had good development, had a good arc, was Pyrrha. Because Pyrrha was seen as a character that was set up on a high pedestal because of how well she was as a huntress. She was someone that was still in training, but at the same time, she was very skilled for someone of her age range. And not only that, but seeing that she was a year one student and she was as good as she was and she was a 5-time champion, well, this made everybody else feel probably more inferior to her character because she was seen as such a good fighter. Not only that, but she had good characteristics. She was definitely someone that was selfless. She thought of others and put them above herself. She was definitely a good character. And the one thing about Pyrrha is she struggled with what she was going to do, what it meant to be a huntress, and in the end, it came down to her having choices, and with her choices came the consequences, which ultimately led to her dying. And while this was a very sad death, it was performed very well, and this was originally planned out by Monty, and considering that Pyrrha's character was developed so well, the audience definitely grew fond of her and started to really like Pyrrha, and because of this, there was an attachment to the character that some of the fans had, and they really enjoyed her character, and when she did die, this was very impactful because she had developed relationships, friendships, and to all that, it affected all of these characters. And while it impacted RWBY, even though the original plan Monty had was it was going to be Jean that caused Pyrrha's death instead, but that would have also led to Jean's development, which I think would have been very great in itself, honestly. But looking at it, it did impact RWBY because RWBY did know Pyrrha, but it wasn't on the level of Team Juniper with Pyrrha, for example. I mean, yeah, they knew each other, and yeah, I guess you could say they were friends, but realistically, it would have probably been a stronger impact with Jean than it would have been with RWBY. But my point is, this still left a big moment within the series when this happened. The death was cause for development, and this life and death situation was actually a very good one overall, and it also led on to the idea of what the Silver Eyes could possibly do in the future before they were even answered. So this was something that I think that they did very well with a life or death situation. Now, with other life or death situations, if you think about Ozpin, yeah, he died within the same volume. He also died in volume 3. But the thing about Ozpin's death in comparison to Pyrrha or Penny's, for example, was we got to see more out of Pyrrha and Penny's characters, how they developed and their interactions with other characters. Ozpin, on the other hand, was more mysterious, and there was a lot to him that still had yet to be discovered, but he came back in the form of Oscar, so realistically, while he did die, it was only temporary, and his character is still continuing to develop, so his death wasn't really that impactful. And then, when it comes to the life and death situation they tried to put in Volume 4, while I think that the Crow and Tyrion fight was the best fight in that entire volume, the thing is, they leave you to wonder if Crow is going to live or die, and that was actually a good thing that they do here, is that they make you question, is Crow actually going to survive, or is he going to die? And the thing that they did well with this before they started teasing multiple deaths, because this is something they started doing later on, but before they started doing this stuff, this was a quest against time. This was for the heroes to try to save Crow's character before he potentially dies to Tyrion's poison. And this was actually done very well, because this did create suspense, and in a very good way at that, because you weren't sure if Crow was actually going to live or die. He was a character that was susceptible to death at that time being, and it left the whole door to, oh man, is he going to die or live open? So there was that. At the same time, with Crow living in the end, the good thing that came out of it was we get to see development out of his character in Volume 6. We see him develop after learning of Ozpin and Salem's past, and learning the truth behind the whole thing, and we saw how depressed he became, and it was great development for his character, and I actually did start to like this. So it's good that they kept him alive overall, and to see how he reacted to that backstory. Now, when it comes to more events, such as the Cinder and Raven fight, now, this was an event that a lot of people had speculated for the longest amount of time that Cinder had died. The one thing I have to give credit to the writers here on this one, while Volume 5 was a terrible volume, the good thing they did was they kept Cinder alive, and why this is actually a good thing, and many people may disagree with me on this one, and that's fine, but the thing is, Cinder's character also needs to be flushed out like the rest of the cast. She is an antagonist that has been there since the very beginning, and she is someone that we still don't know the origin story to, and that is actually vital and a key component to her character to better understand where she's coming from and why she is on Salem's side. That's why if there was a life and death scenario for Cinder, for example, it would be terrible to kill her off as of right now, because we don't know everything to her character. And like any protagonist, the antagonists do deserve respect as well. They do deserve focus, and they do deserve to have their stories be told so they can be better understood as to why they believe what they believe, why they chose the path they chose, and why they joined the side they joined. And if the writer decides to just kill off an antagonist because, oh, well, I don't respect this character, or, oh, I don't like this character, they need to go, well, then that's a problem. And if the audience wants to see them go, and then they just decide, well, let's just kill them off because the audience wants to see them go and not work on them, well then, nobody's going to understand the character, nobody's going to understand why they chose the path they chose, nobody's going to understand what they may have even gone through, and it will just lead you to wonder, well, why did this character choose the path they chose? It's very similar to an Adam situation. With Adam, we still don't know his origin story, and by putting him in the life and death situation they did in Volume 6 and just killing him off straight out, because they wanted him gone, well, that's not respect to the character, and no protagonist or antagonist should be treated the way that Adam's character actually was treated. And the situation they put him in, fighting off against Blake and Yang, and him dying in the end, well, it ultimately crushed his potential as a character because they didn't decide to go into his backstory, they didn't decide to work on that during that moment, and the brand itself just became meaningless because they just decided not to go into it. And that's a big problem there, because when you're focusing on a character, like I stated, you have to work on their story to make them understandable, to make them even potentially relatable. And if you don't do that for your audience, then you destroy the character. I mean, while Adam's backstory was starting to be built up with the transition of what they did in the character short for Adam, that was interesting. But the thing of it is, they didn't work from there. They just more or less did this as what it seems to be damage control because of what happened in Volume 5 to Adam, but it really didn't save his character in the end because of his treatment in Volume 6, which made all that feel like it was kind of worthless, really. And I want to take an example here. So, look at Roman Torchwick. If you look at his character back in Volumes 1 through 3, he was a character that was definitely respected. He was a character that definitely had care put into him, and he was written very well. I mean, in my opinion, I think he's one of the best antagonists that RWBY has ever had. I actually very well enjoyed Roman Torchwick with his witty humor, and he may not have been the strongest character by any means, but he was interesting, he was fun, and he was a hilarious character from time to time. And while they put him in the life and death situation they did, where he died by a Grimm, for example, the thing is, people could say, well, this is the only reason why Neo's back is for revenge for Roman. Now, while it makes sense that this is her motive, because she was the person that was close to Roman, here's the thing that this also does. It doesn't just bring back Neo for fan service, but this brings her back for actual plot relevance. And not only does this bring Neo back for plot relevance so that Neo can be fleshed out more as a character and that her story can be told, but through Neo's character, Roman's story can be told despite the fact that he is actually dead. The difference here between Roman and Adam is the fact that, well, Roman's story can still be told through Neo. That's the way that we can still learn more about Roman's origin and how Roman and Neo met one another. There's still potential there. There's a possibility, and that's not a bad thing. That's a good way that they can actually tell Roman's story is through Neo. But when you think about Adam, the only character that would have been able to do so is Blake, and Adam still had potential to do more, but it's like they wrote his character into a corner. It's like they didn't know what to do with him or the White Fang, thus they believe that they should just kill him off for the development of Blake and Yang. And while his character dying for development of Blake and Yang would make sense, it just wasn't executed well. It was poorly executed. And that's because they harmed his character. When Adam could have survived, he could have been captured, or he could have escaped, and decided to go to Atlas for revenge. This could have actually taught his character about loss and about where his roots are, possibly even trying to get revenge on Atlas for fondness discrimination. At the very same time, this could have introduced Bonesaw, for example, to be his lieutenant, and tried to maybe persuade other White Fang members to come back to Adam because of the Lieutenant, and the Lieutenant and Adam could still have their own issues, but the Lieutenant could try to help him, and this could help them wage war in Atlas. But rather than fighting because Salem needs an army, this could give the potential chance for the Faunus to fight back just for fondness discrimination on their own, and go into Adam's backstory without having to kill his character off the way they did, so that he could be understood more. Because the life and death situation that Adam was in, there's nobody to tell his story now, unless they just decide to say that Bonesaw was the character that knew him, and they tell it through Bonesaw maybe, or maybe just fondness discrimination of Atlas, and who knows, they could have done more with Adam and him meeting Weiss, because he never met Weiss. So we don't know what that interaction would have resulted in becoming. We don't know how Adam would have reacted to Weiss's character. But since there is no character at all, for an example, to Adam that can tell a story unless you want to count Blake, well, there's nothing there. And that's a problem, and that's what kills his potential as a character. And that's exactly why no character should be treated like Adam, because if you have characters that you're writing that are underdeveloped, but yet you plan on killing them, but you don't work on them, you don't develop them further, you don't go into their story, there's not going to be a feeling or an attachment like they had with Pyrrha, or like they had with Penny going. It won't exist. And you have to work on these characters. You have to make them understandable, likable. You have to work on their backstories. And you have to even work through their flaws as characters, because if you just kill them off without working on them, or giving them any form of development, then there is no way that the audience will become attached to that character. And then in the end, when the character dies, then nobody's going to care, because they didn't work on them. The writers didn't think enough or plan it out for the character, and then they just thought, oh, well, killing this character off would be meaningful, when it actually wouldn't in the end. And that's why life and death situations, when it comes to a series, isn't always the best thing. I mean, it's not always bad to have life and death situations, but when it comes down to it, there are other ways to make a moment more impactful, like a character being traumatized by something, dealing with mental issues. They don't always have to kill protagonist or antagonist to have the moment be impactful. And while they've done a good job at these impactful moments, at the same time, it's not always necessary to kill characters. But anyways, I'll be back again on Tuesday. Let me know what you think down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comment section down below. But anyways, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. And if you did enjoy, hit the video with a like. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Share this video with your friends if you found this informative or useful. And follow me on Discord. Link is in the description down below. But anyways, I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful and fantastic day today. And remember, if today was not a good day, tomorrow could always be better. Take care of yourselves and everyone around you. Have yourselves a good one out there, everybody. And may the 4th be with you.